Shalom Chaverim, welcome back to Sichos HaRan. This is going to be our discussion of Sicha number 4 in Sichos HaRan. If you are using this book, you're going to find it starting on page 111. And if you're on Sefaria, it's going to be Sichos HaRan number 4. Before we jump into the text, we have to do a quick, really oversimplified introduction to some ideas from Kabbalah. In Kabbalah, we learn about the fact that there are sparks of Hashem's divine presence, of Hashem's creation, that have been scattered throughout the known world. And we also learn that many of these sparks have become concealed by something called a klipa, which means a husk or a shell. So if you can imagine, there are these sparks of divine energy that have been concealed, and part of our job as Jews is to liberate these sparks from the klipos by elevating certain things. So, for example, if a food item is concealed by a klipa, we can consume that food item with the proper bracha, and by doing that, we elevate that food item back up to its original divine purpose, and that's part of our job as Jews. In Sichos HaRan number 4, Sicha number 4, Rabbi Nachman is talking about wealth, and he makes a pretty bold and controversial statement here at the beginning. He says like this. He says, in these times, he's writing in the late 18th, early 19th century. In these times, it is very difficult for a religious person to have wealth. To obtain riches, he must suffer a great spiritual decline. Yet even after this, there is no guarantee of wealth, for even the wicked or irreligious can be poor. If one is truly religious, then he is always far from riches. So he's saying that piety, being a religious yid, is incompatible with being wealthy, which is a controversial and kind of daunting statement. But basically, he's going to explain that this is because when the temple was destroyed, wealth fell into the realm of the klipos, or husks. So if you recall, when the Beis HaMikdash stood in Yerushalayim, people would bring their wealth, their riches, to support the temple, and the Kohanim, right? People would bring their gold and silver and precious items to be used in the temple service. And the Beis HaMikdash was the dwelling place of the Shekhinah. So when people were able to do that, Jewish wealth was being elevated, right, to its original divine purpose. But after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, and people didn't have the ability to do that anymore, then wealth itself fell into the realm of the klipos. It fell into the realm of these husks where it's concealed. So it says, Rabbeinu continues, if a person covets wealth, he does some gematria before this, but he's talking about how the word for wonders means thousands, if you transpose the letters. And so he's using thousands as a synonym for wealth. And he says, if a person covets these thousands, then he too must fall with them. But even then, he is not assured of riches. Therefore, it is very difficult for a truly religious person to become wealthy. There are some rich tzaddikim and religious people, but their wealth is burdensome and harms their devotions. Now, why would that be? Why would wealth harm someone's devotions? Well, again, if we go back to this Kabbalistic idea of the klipos, if you're interacting with these these husks, which are the klipos come from the sitra achara, from the other side, the side of darkness and the side of wickedness. And so if you're interacting with these klipos on a regular basis, then it makes it really difficult to hold on to your piety, because when you invite in these forces of the sitra achara, of the other side, you risk being sort of led into lots of bad behaviors, right? And we see that in real life. We see that all the time, that people who have sort of limitless wealth are not necessarily always the most virtuous people or the most ethical people. And we know from history that great wealth can lead to corruption and can lead to all sorts of bad behaviors. And it's because now that we don't have the Beis Hamikdash, those riches have become sort of contaminated and covered over by the klipos of the sitra achara, of the other side. So he continues, though they seem wealthy, these tzaddikim who look like they have wealth, they still do not have the ready millions of the irreligious. For true wealth and godliness are now unlikely to be found together. So it's a question. It's a question for us to think about. Can someone be religious, pious, and wealthy? And Rabbi Nachman's telling us here in Sicha number 4 that it's possible for a tzaddik to be comfortable, to be reasonably wealthy, but they're not going to be wealthy on the level of somebody who is irreligious, somebody who is more comfortable getting down into the muck, in the dirt of the klipos, which is where wealth is. And we're going to learn more as we go through this, Bezras Hashem, about the proper way to approach wealth and parnasa and livelihood. And Rabbi Nachman is not encouraging anyone to be desperately poor, but he is warning us that when you chase after wealth, when you chase after money, you're really chasing after the sitra achara. You're chasing after the other side. And what you should be chasing after, of course, is Hashem and his relationship with Hashem, which is not going to be strengthened by having more money. So that's Sicha number 4. And thank you and be well.